Okay, Tizkeh ben Ahmad Sion. Here we are again on Tisha B'Av. Unfortunately, as I always start my class every year, I like to frame today, put us into the right context, make us understand why this day is unique, is different, is special. I call every year this day a superstorm. Rabbi Soloveitchik points out it's the only day of the year we have this collision between Avelut and Ta'anit Sibur, mourning and communal fast. Mourners don't fast. They mourn, they cry. Fasters don't mourn, they atone. There is no day like this, where we are mimicking the Badminan activities and limitations of an actual mourner who's crying, who's lost a loved one. And at the same time, we're abstaining physically and beating our bodies down in order to knock on the doors of heaven. The mourning part, of course, is passive, and it's something that we have to do. We have no choice. This is what's called an abelut yashan. It's an antiquated mourning, wherein if someone badminah loses a loved one, so the mourning dissipates, the sorrow, the pain, 7 days, 30 days, 12 months. Eventually, it mitigates to some extent. Halev nishtaka min halev, hamet nishtaka min halev. After 12 months, the death is not really so prominent, as opposed to a wound that never closes, a grave that's never covered, where this mourning only grows in its immensity and its horror. And we can't close this chapter, so we cry. Cry about two things. First and foremost, as I say every year, we don't know history, we don't know what we're crying about. We understand what Am Yisrael has endured really for 2,600 years, you can say, but at least since the Second Temple, almost 2,000 years. What first destruction was a horror afterwards also. But at least since the second destruction, what we've endured, the Pele is something profound. I repeat it every year. If a person really knows history, understands those tragic events, one should cry to close their eyes. An exercise. Close their eyes and just hear for a few moments thousands, not thousands, millions of voices screaming. Just hear voices screaming. Hear the destruction of a temple and thousands of people being slaughtered and blood flowing on the streets. Hear crusades plummeting and marching through towns and ripping people out of their homes and murdering them. Hear expulsions from France and from England and people going homeless out of their countries. Listen to people crying in the Inquisition. Hear the tragedies of Tafetach, 1648 and 1649, 100,000 people in Poland slaughtered in their homes. Listen to pogroms. Cry about the Holocaust day and night and never stop thinking about it. Listen to the voice of October 7th. Just close your eyes and listen to those voices of men, women, and children. And then it's just a taste. It's just a taste. That's the least we can do, but that is the minor mourning. The major mourning, as we just said in the 5th chapter of Echa, Yitomim hayinu ve'en av, the father is gone. And Hachamim point out to us that our essential mourning and crying today is understanding and being cognizant of the absence of God, the Shekhinah, the Bet HaMikdash, Yerushalayim, the world the way it's supposed to be, the objective of humanity, our purpose in the world, it's all gone. We're homeless, we're fatherless. That's the mourning. It's passive, it's necessary. But the Ta'anit Sibur is an active. It's an active participative role that we do. It's something that we tell ourselves we can't just let the Avelut go by. We have to be engaged. We have to do something about it. We have to take action. And with this Ta'anit Sibur, we atone, we make commitments, we understand, and we'll discuss in the class, what's preventing it from changing, what's deterring the turnaround. and we do something about it. This is a very active day. It's a very productive day. It's supposed to be an incredibly transformative day. As the Navi tells us, it will be a day of happiness. It's not a dream. You don't sit on your hands and say, oh, it's going to be a day of happiness. I can't wait. You're waiting. You have to make it a day of happiness. It's the transformative nature and the potential ability of this day, really v'nahafochu, to turn on its face if we take advantage of the Ta'ani Sibur. So that's the introduction. As I quote every year, I've made this quote every year for maybe 20 years in my class. From Yerushalmi, every generation, it's in source one. You'll follow the source booklet. If the temple wasn't built in your generation, don't look here and there. Look here at yourself, because we destroyed the temple. It could have been rebuilt. 8-year review. I'd have to sit there for 8 hours, right? But 8 years ago, I took upon myself to really engage in, breach a critical topic, and open up the doors to something that's not spoken about enough. It's mainly been about sinat hinam. It's mainly been about lack of shalom and lack of unity. We spoke in depth about the egregious sin of hate. We spoke about solutions to it. We spoke about looking at Am Yisrael and the factions of Am Yisrael, and that over 80% of our nation don't know what they're doing, and that it's the 17, 18% that's engaged who is expected to take responsibility to turn things around. We spoke about the history of the tribes of Am Yisrael and how we survived, and how we've taken on different forms and shapes and sizes and colors, but that's the bruises of Galut, and we're here very proud. We've spoken about the terrible disease of factions, division, hashkafot, looking down upon, dismissing, and praying for the downfall of others. And this year, I'm going to expound upon what I did last year, which is really looking in to what Hachamim present. Let's just open up all the books. Let's stop playing games and making up stories about this is what we need to. I have a great idea. Let's do this and Mashiach will come. Stop it. Just stop it. We have thousands and millions of words of Hazal. Just look at them and understand. So I titled this class, Prompting versus Preventing Redemption, because there are sources, some which we brought last year, that seems to say if you do this, it's really going to help Geulah to come. But there are other sources that say, if you don't do this, it'll never come. And it's critical to draw that distinction. So I wrote here 3 critical questions. One is that very distinction. I asked in question 1, what factors potentially prompt Geulah to hasten? In other words, what things can we do that actually bring it on quicker? Versus what factors are critical for it to arrive, and without them, it'll never arrive. Can forget about it. And then what's this connection between hatred? We talk about hatred, and with Sinat Hanam destroyed, and without it, we can't rebuild. Why? Like, really, why? Like, what's the connection between that and destruction and redemption? How does that make sense? I know it's terrible. Murder is terrible also. Idolatry is horrible too. And finally, I want to really psychoanalyze this. Why does that mode of behavior, whether hatred or jealousy or division, why is that so difficult to change and overcome? So overwhelming. Why is that? What's the psychology behind that? So I jump right into really these 4, maybe 4 out of the 6 following sources I wrote last year. And these are category 1. These are the factors that prompt or expedite redemption. In other words, Hachamim say, sources are right here. Hachamim say, this may help us a lot. This is going to help us a lot. In fact, this is really going to move Geulah along. Let's look at them quickly. So source 2 is factor 1. Gemara Masechet Shabbat. Famous. You all know this one. It's famous, right? Ilmaleh Mishamerim Yisrael Sheteh Shabbatot K'Chatan. If only Am Yisrael can observe 2 perfect Shabbatot, immediately they'll be redeemed. I always thought to myself, great idea. These days, let's just make a giant chat group, right? Guys, I know you don't go for the Sabbath thing. I'm just asking you. I'll pay you, right? 24 hours this week, 24 hours next week, 25, 50 hours altogether. We'll do it. Okay. Start with Hakamim mean. Right. First of all, Shemoneh Shabbat Kil Chatan, who can actually observe Shabbat perfectly 100%? And what is the number two all about? Is there a magic potion to anything? What does it really mean? And I found you another source in Kohelet Rabbah, and that is En Yisrael Nechalim Elem B'Zchut Shabbat. The merit of Shabbat is really what's going to bring us over the top and cross the line. And the whole idea, obviously, is that with Shabbat, we demonstrate our faith in God. It stands for a creator, an all-powerful and mighty and primal being. And Shabbat is a necessary component for us to demonstrate our emunah. The more we do, the more we get people on board. And in fact, if everyone was on board with perfect faith, yeah, we would be redeemed. And so therefore, it's a critical, possible, prompt for Geulah. Number two, factor two. Gemara Masechet Bava Batra. I want you to pay attention to what I underlined, by the way, purposely, as we go through it. This source says that Gedulah Tzedakah Shemikarevet et HaGeulah. How great is charity that it brings redemption closer. Charity doesn't only mean giving tzedakah. Here, it's an all-encompassing term which talks about all of the incredible chesed and outreach and charity and compassion and the incredible organizations upon the thousands and tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands that now exist in Am Yisrael. It's incredible. Learn what's out there. Our community, way outside our community. America, look at Eretz Yisrael. Do you know how many organizations of incredible heights that exist? Of course, that's Mikarev Geula. Of course, we bring Mashiach closer with that incredible demonstration of love and compassion and empathy and mercy for our brothers and sisters. 100%. Great. Factor three, Masechet Sanhedrin talks about Osek b'Torah Lishma. We'll talk about that more. Learning Torah for its sake. Af Mekarev Geulah also brings Geulah closer. Factor four is source 5. It's a source from Devarim Rabbah, Midrash Rabbah, and it says there, I'd underline it, but im shamata at shnehem hasadaka v'hadin miyad ani goel etchem Geulah shirema. What does that mean? Sadaqah, we always spoke about. Din. Din refers to justice. It also refers to a lack of corruption. If you paid attention to the Haftarah just now in Yirmiyahu, what did it speak about? What did the prophet complain about? Murder? No. Avodah Zarah? What are you complaining about? Backstabbing. I can't trust you in my business anymore. You talk about me all the time. You don't have integrity and honesty. Look at the prophets. Their number one complaint is corruption and money and lack of integrity and honesty. Second question, or maybe first question, will be asked after 120. Not did you eat kosher? Nasata v'natata b'emunah. Did you live a life in every aspect of your life of honesty and integrity? And so, yes, deen and justice system is incredibly important for Am Yisrael. We pray for it every day in the Beracha Vashiva. These things will bring Geulah closer. There's no question about it. On the next page, source 6, finally, factor 5. Geulah teshubah shemebi'ah umekarevet Geulah. How great is repentance, is teshubah, is coming closer to God, is changing our ways. Gentlemen, how obvious is it that everything great that we do brings in our small way, and with Am Yisrael collectively, Mashiach that much closer? And these are the most powerful factors. You can't get more powerful than Tzedakah and Chesed, than Torah, than honesty and integrity, Shabbat. You can't get more powerful. There are tools at our disposal, obviously. Don't ever take for granted the power of our actions, of our mitzvot, of our commitment, and with our families, our communities, exponentially, catches on fire, and we rock the heavens. But I want you to look at the Lashon. Hakamim, in almost every one of these statements, said use the word mekarevet, brings closer. or God making a deal. If you do this, then I'll do this. There's going to be a very big difference between that and what we're about to see. So before we look at the other set of factors, what I want to do is we have no choice. We have to look at, first off, the reasons for destruction. We're talking about how to get it back. Let's talk about why it happened. Everyone knows these Gemarot, even if you're not a daily Gemara learner. I think everyone knows them. So section 2, the reasons for destruction. We're on page 2. We're in source 7. Famous Gemara Masechet Yoma says, Mikdash Rishon Mipnei Ma'acharet. Why God destroyed the first temple? He names us the big three: Avodah Zarah, Gilui Ariyot Shivichut Damim, idolatry, incessant relations, adultery, you can say, promiscuity, you can say, and Shivichut Damim, and murder. Those are the big three. Those are the big three. Aval Mikdash Sheni, says the Gemara, second Bet Mikdash. They were oskim b'Torah mizvot gimilut hasadim. What would you call someone, by the way, that does that? Who's involved in Torah, learns Torah every day, mizvot every day. He's active in chesed. What would you call that guy, by the way? Religious guy, a religious guy. So in the second Bet Mikdash, everybody was religious, observant. God, what are you doing? We're a religious community, God. No secret. One of the most famous Gemarot in Shas, because there was baseless hatred, or whatever term you want to apply to that Hebrew term. Sinat Hinam. To teach you, says the Gemara, that Sinat Hinam is as weighty as idolatry, adultery, and murder. Okay. That's the more known Gemara source. The less known is source 8 from Masechet Shabbat. The source of Masechet Shabbat is unclear as to whether it's talking about the first or second Bet HaMikdash. But it does seem from the Pesukim and the support that's brought in that Gemara that it's talking about the first temple. Very interesting to note. So there's a chart there. There's 8 reasons. Very interesting to note that 4 of them, even if it's talking about the first temple, very much are more in thematically the category that it has to do with interpersonal relationships. I put in the left column the categories. Belligerence and arrogance, disrespect, denigrating hachamim, right? Lack of integrity, by the way, it's there. The prophets, I said, always complained about that. So those are sort of speak more second temple spirit iniquities, and yet they're also bound and present in the first temple. And adding on to that, Shabbat, abandoning prayer, lack of Jewish education. So this whole litany here, a shopping list of faults in the destruction of temple general list that Hachamim give us. Of course, there's always more than one reason that factors in. Now, let's get to the second list. I said this class is all about prompting versus preventing. We saw a list of powerful tools that can bring you a lot closer. This is the list of we call preventative redemption factors. And you'll notice that Hachamim take a very different tone here. As best I could, I scanned Gemarot, I scanned Shas. It's probably not exhaustive. I scanned Midrashim. I came up with the other list, and now this one. Midrash Tanhuma, in source 9. It says, and I'll paraphrase the first line and a half. It says, in the natural order of the world, if you take anything that's tied up, here it says reeds, kanim, reeds, a rope, anything where you combine a lot of maybe frail items, but you tie them up, right? And you try to smash it, it's not going down. Not breaking. But you take one of them, one straw, one reed, one thread, snap, just like that. He says the Midrash Tanhuma in the second sentence, V'chen ata mosat moseh she'en, listen to the Lashon, the terminology. En Yisrael nig'alin ad shiyu kulam aguda achat. So sad, my friends. The nation Israel will not, look at the en ad, En ad. It means it's not happening. There is no Mashiach until what's an agudah. Agudah is a bundle, something that's tied, until we're completely unified. It's not happening. Believe Hazal. Can't happen. We have to be agudah. You can cry. Use the tools. Use Shabbat. Use Torah. Use Tefillah. Use Tzedakah and Chesed. Bringing it closer, closer. We're emerging. We're encroaching. We're coming. It's not going to happen. You got to be agudah. Look at source 10. Also, you see that terminology. This is on Bereshit Devarim Rabbah, Midrash Rabbah. Gedolah Shalom, Shena Kadosh Baruch Hu Mevaser Yerushalayim Shiyu Nechalim Ela B'Shalom. En Ela, that means only. God will only inform. Eliyahu Nabi is Mevaser Sion, right? That he does the intro to Mashiach. He's the setup guy, right? You'll only hear his voice with Shalom. If he comes and he sniffs, there's great stuff going on. There's Torah, there's Shabbat, there's Chesed. He starts to climb the mountain to the stage to make the announcement. He says, wait a second here. It's not complete Shalom. We're not ready for this. Going back home. No Shalom, no deal. It's a critical distinction between that which can expedite, that which will bring closer, the powerful tools which will mekarev geula, and those which without them, it will be repressed. The final conclusion will not be seen. We can feel good about everything that happens with the IDF, and we can have a great feeling of inspiration. It's all wonderful. It's real. It's very real. We're in Geulah. We're in stages right now of redemption. It will not solidify, complete, and culminate. You just heard Hazal say, until Shalom, until unity. That's it. Now, I have to say, I want to make a few comments here because I pay a lot of attention, see a lot of videos, a lot of great, talented rabbis and hachamim. You hear wonderful classes, people with different angles and people with different abilities to inspire, to be thought-provoking, and they're wonderful. I believe I learn from anyone. I watch all classes, but I really, in this realm, recently, more recently, always but more recently, I'm a little not satisfied because I hear often these comments, these messianic comments, these comments about redemption. There's a great, I don't know if you're on it. There's like a online team and a whole world, a whole family called Vaima'en. Did you ever hear about it, Vaima'en? It's about controlling your eyes, controlling your, right? It's about having discipline in what you see and what you think about, and right? And it's about immodesty and protecting ourselves from, promiscuity and immorality. It's fantastic. There's a litany of speakers. There's a plethora of ideas. It's inspiring. But you hear often these connective ideas. If you want redemption to come, if you do this, Mashiach will come. No. It's powerful. I live it. I love it. I'm inspired by it. Don't convolute. Because when you use the terms lightly, you forget what Hazal say. You can't just pick anything and say Mashiach. You hear a lot. I hear great Hachamim speak about, we just read in Yirmiyah, right? Why did I exile? Alazvam Torati. And you hear great Hachamim say, listen, strengthen Torah. That's the only thing that's stopping it right now. More Torah, we're almost there. We're going to get there. We're there. No, we're not there. Everyone can retire today, open a Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, don't go to sleep at night, learn 24 hours a day, commit to God. It's not here. Not here. It's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. It's really important to know this. God forbid am I calling anyone out. What I'm pointing out is that we have to be crystal clear as to what the focus needs to be, what needs to be pushed. what rabbis should be advocating, what us, family leaders, business leaders, community leaders, synagogue leaders should be pushing. Talk about leaders, turn the page. In page 3, in source 11. So, okay, we know what we got to do, right? How is a big question, but who does the onus fall upon? There's another Gemara. We know this Gemara. We do know it. It's one of the only Gemara we can learn today, right? It's Masechet Gitin. It's about the Chodban Bet HaMikdash. It's a famous story of Kamsa Bat Kamsa. Right? Raise your hand if you know it, right? Let me just summarize it anyway, because I'm trying to bring to a different point here. So, very quickly. Story is some wealthy person has a great affair, it's a wedding party for his child, and he has a friend and an enemy. Friends called Kamsa, the enemy is called Bar Kamsa. You know how they go to the doors and they put the invitations through the door slots, right? Sometimes they get it right, most of the time they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. And the wrong invitation was given. The guy delivered to Bar Kamsa instead of to Kamsa. The guy's enemy gets the invitation. He's like, oh, maybe he's like, making up. This is reconciliation time. Okay. He goes to the party. The guy sends his bouncer, get that guy out. What are you doing here? You're not invited. He's like, I'm sorry, listen, I'm here now. Please don't embarrass me. I'll pay for my meal, no problem. Absolutely not. Leave. I'll pay for half the party. The owner said, leave. Please don't embarrass me. All right. Owner comes in. Listen, you're not wanted here. Please don't do this. I'll pay for the entire party. I'm fitting the bill. It's on me. Get out. Threw him out. He says, this is what Jews are like. Let me inform. And he has a plan where he goes to the office of the emperor. Roman times has occurred. It's during the Second Temple. And he said, the Jews are rebelling against you. How do you know? We'll send them an animal for a sacrifice. You'll see they won't accept it. And he has his devious plan, and he infects it with a little bit of a blemish. And of course, it can't be sacrificed. He sends it as a gift to Yerushalayim. They get it. The rabbi said, "What are we going to do? It's a blemish." I said, "Well, maybe we should just do it because they'll kill us." It's like, sakanat nefashot. And one rabbi says, Rabbi Zechariah says, no, it's going to really set a terrible precedent. You can't get to the Beit HaMikdash. You can't do it. We said, well, then maybe we should just shut the guy up and kill him, And they're like, well, they'll think that you bring the wrong korban and you get killed for it. So we know, we got to follow halakha, he's like. Got to follow halakha. And it became known that they didn't sacrifice the emperor's gift. And that led to terrible destruction. But I don't want to, now that's not hinam, obviously. That's lack of sensitivity, embarrassing. It's like killing someone, right? That's the most egregious interpersonal activity you can engage in, right? But that's not how the Gemara concludes. Gemara concludes, Rabbi Yochanan says that Anvanuta, the righteousness of Rabbi Zechariah, destroyed our temple and burnt our Beit HaMikdash and exiled us off our land. The moral of the story at the end was the Hacham is to blame. He could have stopped it. Yes, it was horrible. It was a busha uchlima, the whole story. He could have stopped it. He didn't. The Gemara alludes to the fact that everyone present could have said something, and they didn't. They're just guilty by association, by lack of initiative, by lack of empathy. I found this Ora Hayim. Someone tipped me off to it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to paraphrase it for you. But it so much points to this very Gemara and puts his finger on it. The great Ora Hayim, Rabbi Hayim Ben Attar, is focusing on a pasuk in Parashat Behar. It's talking about when someone has to sell their land and someone else buys it, and the relative can redeem it, and he analyzes it in a manner of remes, hinting. And he says, Ki amuk achicha, when your brother falls, when a Jew, when Am Yisrael in sin, when they fall, when they assimilate, when they go off the path, when they lose their Yirat Shamayim, Well, God's going to have to sell your inheritance, your land, your house, destroy your temple, exile you into the outer world. What are you going to do? How are you going to save them? Uba go'alo hakarob elav. Go'alo, the Redeemer, is the Sadiq, the Hachamim. They can help us. They can guide the people. They can inspire them. They can point out their faults, their iniquities, their sins. They're going to bring us back. The Ga'al Mim Karahiv. They'll rebuild our temple. Says, look at the bottom line in Surah Sub 11, Ora Hayim. I'm not saying this. The great Ora Hayim is saying this. Ve'al zeh atidin litenet hadin kol adonai ha'ares gedolei Yisrael. Rabbi Hayim ben Attar is saying this, that the great Hachamim of all times will be brought to judgment because of this. Umahem yivakesh Hashem elbon habayit ha'aluv. Who might open my mouth? I'm scared saying the sentence. But the disgraced temple will be put on their shoulders. Meaning, leadership has to do something if you want to change. Leadership of Hachamim, leadership of presidents, leadership of fathers, leadership of teachers, leadership as business owners. Find the problem, listen to Hazal, put your finger on it and do something about it. And don't say, he's the one that's guilty. Say, if I don't change him, I am guilty. That's the point. I don't want to blame Hachamim. It's one of the points of me bringing this Orah Hayim. The point is that no one can stand back and sit down and not take initiative and not be aggressive and not try to engage in solution. For goodness sake, this is the Sha'ab B'Av. It's about solution. So, we made the distinction between the prompters of redemption and those which prevent. That's what represses redemption. This is critical now, everybody. Let's connect this. So we're told about sinat hinam, baseless hatred. It's the worst, lack of unity. But why? Why is that the fact? The 613 mitzvot. You ever stop and think, why is it that prevents? Why don't you say that lack of Torah prevents redemption? Why don't you say Mehalel Shabbat or Kashrut is stopping Mashiach from coming? Why don't you say not enough Hesed is repressing Messianic times? Why don't you say that? Why is it that sin'ah, hatred and jealousy and cruelty? Why? Why that? Before I bring you to source 12, I wanted to remind you of the greatest moment in our history. What's the greatest moment in our history? Matan Torah is the greatest moment in our history. It was the apex. It was the pinnacle of Jewish existence. It's been downhill from there, unfortunately, over 3,300 years ago. What does it say there? Of course, the famous passage, Vayihan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahad. Single terms, they camped there by the foot of the mountain. That was a great moment of unity. They all said with one voice, we will do. That was the moment. We've spent 3,300 years to try to recapture that moment. Now, that moment is so significant because it's not just the revelation of God on Mount Sinai and the giving of God's, basically the extension of the intellect of God and the blueprint for the world and for Am Yisrael on planet Earth. It's because it was given in a form that only in that form can it ever be carried out. What do I mean by that? So look at source 12. I brought this maybe 6-7 years ago. The Malbim on the Pasuk in Tehillim talks about Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is called Ha'ir Ki'ir Shehubbera Laha Yahdav. The city that is connected together. It's redundant, right? Connecting it together. And basically he says that the nation Israel is a body with many limbs. And he says, I underlined it over there, בעבורה יתחברו האיברים והפרטים של הגוף הכולל יחדיו להיות גוף אחד. Only Yerushalayim can unify Am Yisrael, and every limb and every sinew and every cell of the trillions of cells in the body can come together and form a body. And if something's missing, it's missing. In other words, every soul is created for a purpose. Every body and every Jew who ever lived and existed on planet Earth had his own objective, purpose, goals, missions, and only with the collective existence of Am Yisrael can we accomplish our purpose. So if our purpose here is L'Kadesh Shem Shamayim, why are we here on planet Earth? Yichud Hashem, oneness of God, sanctifying God's name, being a light to the nations. And if that could only be done by the collective efforts of the entire nation as one single body, with not one person left out, because we can't afford to lose you, because that's why God put you here on the team. You're not just a bench warmer. There are no bench warmers in Am Yisrael. There are critical contributors in Am Yisrael. And if every single member is needed to form the collective unit that will carry out the purpose and objectives of the Jewish nation on this world, and there is somebody who is actively and purposely attempting to divide it, you, my friend, are impeding the possibility of us fulfilling our objective and our mission. And it can't be fulfilled. And that's why the person who propagates sin'ah, hatred, that is why those who cause division, those who impede unity, are doing no less than pronouncing themselves as the enemies of God. Because God put us here for a purpose. God needs us here for a mission. We know to do what we need to be 100% unified. And if you somehow cause a fissure, a break, a crack in that unity, then you're enemy number one. And that's why we just read the sources. It won't happen unless there's shalom. It can't culminate without unity. And the Sinat Hanam person is the destroyer, because we can't do what God wants us here with that person here. I don't care about your Torah and your mitzvot. You're killing us. You're destroying us. That is the reason. Source 13, the great Lubavitcher Rabbi says, and I'll just paraphrase it basically, he gives another reason for V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and that is that, you know why you should love your fellow man? Because you got the same father. And essentially, you're all, in a very deeper way, your soul is part of God. And you're all from the same being anyway. So loving someone else is loving yourself. You're all one single being. This being needs to be treated as one being. You can't hate your arm. You know, I'm going to cut off my arm today. Very turn off my arm. My arm doesn't hold like me. It's time for the arm to go. It's part of you. What are you doing? So I want to address, as a little pet peeve, it's a major pet peeve, before we go on to our conclusion, just a terminology that you hear. I'm hearing this since I'm, 14 years old. It's a justification that you hear people, mainly in the, I'll call it, Torah world, observant world, learning world, Yirei Shamayim world, our brothers who we love, I'm them, we're them, right? But you hear this term, this phrase, when asked about someone, to frame someone, when asked about a rabbi, a shidduch, a group, a shul, a yeshiva, we don't hold by them. It's not real English, but we know what they mean. We don't hold by them. Now, really, that is okay, depending on what you mean by that. If what you mean by that is that I disagree with their approach to Limud Torah, or the way that they treat halachic situations, or with their philosophy as to how to engage the outer world, or with their approach to general Jewish life, their hashkafa, as we say, disagree. In fact, I disagree so much that I'm going to form my own institution, and I'm going to advocate for people to go there. And I'm championing my own cause. I'm not really championing their cause. I'd rather my cause. I'd rather place A than place B. I believe in it. In fact, I'll debate you about it. In fact, I'm willing to really explain why you're wrong because I feel that you're wrong. If that's what you mean, and you're talking to your son or your student who you care about, and you're saying it in a very explanatory, elaborate way, in a caring way, in a sincere way, and you're saying, we don't hold by, if that's what you really mean, and you explain it like I just said, and you see it necessary to use the word hold, you can use the word hold if you want. Fine. What it means most of the time is that it's used as a justification to dismiss somebody else. And we have a disease, and the disease, which we'll discuss right now, how to get rid of the disease, well, why it's a disease, but the disease is that we feel that where there's an end that we need to get to, the means don't matter. We can justify all of the means with the end. And therefore you can talk, you can slander, you can call names, L'Shem Shamayim, most dangerous two words we have. Because we don't hold philosophy. And we're not just disagreeing anymore. We're dismissing. We're really advocating for downfall of the other institution, yeshiva, shul. Listen, if they defy any of the 13 tenets of Jewish faith, the 13 Akarei Emunah, I'm on board with you. Tell me who they are, and I will help eradicate that institution. That people are I'll help you. If they are defying the basic principles of Jewish law, the denying chapters of Shulchan Aruch, I'm partnering with you right now to close down that shul. I'll do it with you. You know we're not talking about that person. Stop it already. 40 faces of Torah, 70 faces of Torah rather, doesn't mean within your face. The 70 types. No, it means 69 that you don't care, that really you don't care about. It's not your taste. Let's talk about the disease of hatred and jealousy. Let's talk about why it's so hard to get rid of it. I can convince someone to keep Shabbat and Kashrut. Much easier than I can convince someone to stop hating. Why is that? Two simple sources in Masechet Avot. Pirkei Avot twice tells us that there are things that musi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam, that extricate someone, that prevents someone from living in this world. One is in the second chapter, Mishnah Yud Aleph. Rabbi Yeshua says three things: Ain hara, yes hara, sinata beriyot. Ain hara, possibly looking upon people in a miserly way. There's other ways to explain it. Of course, your evil inclination and hatred. Take us out of this world. Fourth chapter, Rabbi Azar Kapar says, Kana tava kavod. Jealousy, desire, and honor also take us out of this world. What is the common denominator in these six? The easier thing to concentrate on is, for instance, yesahara and ta'ava, desire. I want to take an extreme example. You ever know situations of people that have a substance abuse? Substance abuse, right? I deal with those cases all the time. The people here that are doctors and the like know all these types of cases. Why is it so severe? Why is it so severe? The reason, because the person develops a psychological condition called an addiction. He develops an addiction. And he can't help himself. It's physical, it's mental, he's drawn to it. It overwhelms, it consumes him. He does the most irrational thing. People lose their businesses, their families, their friends, because of what? A substance, a drink, a powder, a pill? It's so irrational. They don't live in the world. They remove themselves from this world. That's the most extreme but true and clear example. An addiction to something really prevents you from living a normal life. You're so obsessed with it. It's all you think about is that drink and that snuff. It's whatever you're doing. You lose everything. That's Yesahara and Ta'ava. Look who they're neighbors with in these two statements. They're neighbors with hatred and jealousy and honor. Because those things, my friend, they function the same way. Because when you have your way and you're wanted and you're proud of it and you know it's right, like Rabbi Hirsch explains, the other person becomes your threat, your opponent, your enemy. You become obsessed. You're overwhelmed. Hatred overwhelms. the guys, that color, that whatever you call people, that ring, you become overwhelmed and obsessed. Really, people become obsessed with defeating them, with dismissing them. They can't help themselves. So everything becomes justified. Slander, lashon hara, insult, backstabbing, lack of loyalty. It's all because, in fact, you'll hear people actually justify it. They'll tell you about the justifications for it. It's irrational. How irrational is it? It's stopping our redemption. It's causing a fissure and a crack in the nation. It's stopping the unity. We no longer can hope for immediate Mashiach. That's how irrational it is. People that have hatred are absolutely obsessed. And that is a disease that we have never conquered and never overcome. And that is where leadership and even sub-leadership and sub-leadership comes in. Call it for what it is. Say it, speak it, yell it from the rooftops. You want to yell about, a guy driving on Shabbat? Do it. Eating out? Do it. Be it nice. Do it gently. Plan it. But if you're going to do that and not do this, then go home. What are you giving classes for anymore? What are you teaching Torah for anymore? If you're not going to teach about what's preventing the Geulah, go home already. You're going to tell me all the rest of Torah, learn Shas, learn Daf Yomi, and not teach this? This is it. Stop it already. I'll end with this. I'm a little bit over time, but I want to end with this. If you turn the page, an incredible phenomenon has happened in the last hundreds of years, in which we've had a lot of holy communities that may have been holy in many ways, maybe even in unity. And great Hachamim have wondered, I really don't understand. Mashiach should have come already. In Surah 16 is a Gemara Masechet Nedarim that quotes this pasuk that we just read in Yirmiyah, where the Navi says, why'd you kick us off the land? And Hashem answers, Al ozvanu Torati. Some take it that to mean that they're not learning Torah enough. The Gemara doesn't answer that. The Gemara answers, is the third line, She'en mevarechim b'Torah tehillah. They don't say berachot Torah before they learn Torah. That's it, right? You can't turn to page 3 in the Siddur and read the berachot Torah before you learn Torah. That's the whole thing, right? That's why we're in exile. So the Ran, in the name of Rabbeinu Yonah, explains as follows. He explains, yeah, of course they're reading berachot Torah, but they don't mean it when they do it. They don't really value what they're doing. It's becoming part of their routine. They don't understand how they're rocking the heavens when they do it. They don't put all their life and their heart and their blood into it, their sacrifice into it. They just go into a class from 8 to 9. It doesn't envelop them. It doesn't engage them. It doesn't become part of them. That's what it means they don't make a beracha on Torah. The great, in the Sidur Ya'abes, I found this. Someone tipped me off to this many years ago. Rabbeinu Yaakov Amdin. He says, and I'm going to paraphrase this in Surah 17, it pays for you to read this on your own. He says that if only for this one last sin in our hands, that we don't mourn properly, that's enough for God to extend this exile of ours. And from all the other reasons that I can find, of all the horror and all the destruction and all the suffering and all the exile and all the disbursement and everything else, I have to say that this mourning is not enough. We don't do it enough. We're too comfortable. Because after Shabbat B'Av's over, go back home, sit on that couch, swim in our pool, go to our office, and everything's okay, he says. That's not mourning. That's not being crushed. That's what a mourner does, right? Mourner's injured. He's traumatized. Are we traumatized? He says it's not in our hearts. We're not sorrowful. We're not moaning. We're not in pain. When you're ready to really be in pain, understand what we lost and what we don't have, that's when it'll come back. So there's a modern discovery. This is a modern phenomenon. We have great Hachamim lived 250 years ago saying that maybe we understand intellectually that Rabbi Matalon gave this class and they gave you sources and told you, yeah, but you don't really feel it. They're not said enough about it. And one last source, I found this in a book called Berit, Sefer HaBerit. There's a rabbi that wrote a more famous book called Shnei Luchot HaBerit. It's Rabbi Pinchas Horovitz, who's a student of the Gerah. He has this large philosophical book. And in that book I found, and you'll read this on your own, I just copied it because I couldn't find it online on the last page. You can read it on your own. He said, this is a digression in his book. It's a philosophical book. But he says, I spent my whole life researching. Why in the world is this exile dragging on and extending? We live in a holy community. Everyone around me, he was in Poland in the 18th century. Student of the Gemara. Everyone's learning Torah. Everyone's keeping mitzvot. Everyone's praying. Everyone's doing chesed. I don't understand. This wasn't a rhetorical question. He grappled with this. It tormented him. This is a very deep thinker. I don't understand. And you know what he ended up answering? Only one answer I can find. You know what everyone doing everything? The Torah, the mitzvot, the prayer. You know why it's not working? Because it's selfish. Everyone's doing it for themselves. You know why we're doing it? Because it's a mitzvah. Why do I want to do a mitzvah? Because it'll bring me to Gan Eden. Oh, by the way, it helps me also. Helps me parnasah, give me long life and health. Olam haba, isn't that virtuous enough? He says no. He says you should be doing it all for one reason. And his quote is, to save God from exile, to redeem God from this world of impurity and to bring on redemption. You want God to be redeemed. That should be your intention. That should be your focus. Hachamim, after thousands of years of finally discovering we really did a lot, we came back alone. Sinat Hanam we have not solved. But whatever the solution is, you have to want it enough. You have to know we're lacking this. We need this. We need Mashiach. We need Geulah. We need God in our lives. We need the Bet HaMikdash. We have to think about it. We can't let Shah B'Av finish and then wait till next year. It's got to be in our minds, the forefront of our thinking all the time. Please redeem God, bring us back, and do it essentially by listening to what Hachamim say. Enough with the nonsense. Love every single Jew. Reach out. Bring unity. Bring shalom. Bring Mashiach. Tzidkenu b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen. But no.